we should draw another diagram. Physical bodies are here, another physical body, and this is Joe, and this is Jim, and this is Sarah, etc. Now, clearly, this is the physical level. Yeah. Now, on this physical level, we all separate. You sit there, and I sit here, and we all separate. Let's draw another level. This level is slightly higher, and let's call this the level of the soul. Yeah. Well, there will be some mingling here. Let's draw this person as extending to practically infinity this way. Now, look what happens. At the physical level, we're separate. And there's this much distance between us. Let's say that on the soul level, this person extends this much, and the other person is slightly mixed in with him. That is, the souls are in a way in touch with each other. Okay, they overlap these two much. Let's go now to a higher level, and let's call this, say, the level of the higher self, which is kind of the boss of the soul. There, what we find is that this fellow's higher self extends this much, and the other fellow's extends this much. There is more overlap between them. On the very highest level, which is a high spiritual level, we are basically overlapping completely. Everybody is overlapping everybody else. In other words, everything and everyone is everywhere. In other words, we've become omnipresent. This is a state of highly spiritual perfected beings, or gods, you may call it. Okay?
The man survived the camps of Europe, built machines that saved hearts, and sketched diagrams that revealed the soul of the cosmos. He laughed his way through mysteries others cloaked in incense. He claimed reality was not solid, but a rhythm, flickering in and out like a flame, and just as he prepared to share his greatest discovery, his plane fell from the sky. Some called it coincidence, others conspiracy, but perhaps it was neither, for Itzhak Bentov had already whispered the secret. Death is only the pendulum pausing before another swing begin. He was not born into comfort, but into chaos. Itzhak Bentov entered the world in Czechoslovakia in 1923, and by his teens the shadow of war had already swallowed Europe. He survived what should have ended him, the concentration camps that ground millions into silence. But he walked out alive, and like all survivors, he carried with him a secret rhythm, the knowledge that life itself is fragile, flickering, a candle that can vanish in a breath. When others might have closed their hearts, he opened his mind. He came to America with little more than resilience and curiosity, and there he built machines to heal what war had broken. His inventions, catheters, pacemakers, stitched life back into fragile bodies. He was, by every measure, an engineer of flesh and steel, yet behind the patents and the medical journals, something stranger stirred. For Bentov did not see the body as wires and circuits alone. He saw it as a symphony, every organ, every cell vibrating in resonance with forces far beyond its skin. When most men of science asked, "How does the heart pump?" he asked, "What invisible field does the heart echo?" When others asked, "What chemicals spark thought?" he asked, "What reality does thought tune into?" And unlike most dreamers, he dared to answer. He sketched his ideas not in sacred temples, but in bathtubs, laughing as he scribbled diagrams on soggy paper. He explained the infinite with cartoons, pendulums, and playful metaphors. To him, the cosmos was not a fortress of equations, but a playground of vibration. A place where consciousness and physics dance together, inseparable. Bentov believed that reality itself is not fixed but rhythmic, that matter is nothing more than oscillation, flickering into existence, vanishing and returning again. And he believed that consciousness was not born inside the skull, but tuned, like a radio, to frequencies that stretch far beyond the body. The mind, he said, does not create awareness, it receives it. This was not mysticism wrapped in incense. It was science daring to touch the mystical, a new language for truths that sages had whispered for centuries. He called it the Wild Pendulum. And it was here that his life took on its paradox. For while he lived as an inventor, what he was truly inventing was a map of the invisible, one that traced the hidden currents of vibration, the holographic weave of reality itself. Soon, his sketches began to travel further than he ever imagined, across offices, sealed in silence, where men in gray suits studied diagrams not of machines, but of minds. They saw in his drawings not just playful doodles, but blueprints to states of consciousness that could transcend space, time, even death itself. Yet at the center of it all was not secrecy or paranoia, but wonder. Bentov carried the heart of a child and the hands of an engineer. To him, the universe was not cold machinery. It was alive, playful, infinite, a mirror waiting to be recognized. And so the question rises, how does a man who builds pacemakers for the dying come to speak of cosmic eggs, holograms, and eternity? The answer is simple and dangerous. He had seen too much. He had followed the rhythm of the pendulum beyond the limits of ordinary science. And once you see what lies there, you cannot unsee it. Imagine a pendulum. It swings left, it swings right. At each end it hesitates, a pause, a silence, then motion begins again. To most, this is a simple toy, a curiosity of physics. But to Itzhak Bentov, it was the hidden architecture of existence itself. He called it the Wild Pendulum. What if reality does not flow continuously like an unbroken stream, but blinks, appearing, disappearing, reappearing, 14 times every second? To the naked eye, to the untrained mind, the cup on the table is solid, the ground beneath your feet unmoving. But beneath appearances, all things are pulsing, oscillating, winking in and out of existence like fireflies at dusk. We do not see the vanishing, only the illusion of continuity. Yet Bentov insisted, the secret of the universe lies in the pause. For in that still point, between motion and motion, between being and non-being, is eternity. Hours later, meditation, he said, is nothing more than learning to stretch that pause, to slip into the silence between blinks, to extend the instant when all dissolves, and to discover that what remains is not nothing, but infinity. This is why mystics across centuries have spoken of the gap, the space between breaths, the stillness between thoughts, the silence between heartbeats. They were not speaking in metaphor. They were describing the doorway that opens when the pendulum halts, if only for a fraction of a second. Consider this paradox. If you could move at infinite speed, you would be everywhere at once, omnipresent. But if you could rest completely, dissolving all motion, you would also be everywhere at once. For nothing could separate you from anything else. Extreme motion and perfect stillness collapse into the same truth. The pendulum, then, is not only physics, it is the mirror of creation itself. Sound gave Bentov his clearest example. Strike a tone and chaos becomes order. Scatter grains of sand on a metal plate, and with vibration they form breathtaking geometries. Mandalas, snowflakes, spirals echoing galaxies. Noise turns to form. Frequency becomes shape. Matter itself, he declared, is nothing but slowed down sound. Your heartbeat, the spiral of seashells, the orbit of stars, all are signatures of vibration frozen into form. You are not a body made of particles. You are a rhythm, a pattern of oscillations. Bentov performed simple experiments to prove it. Drop 3 pebbles into water. Watch as the ripples intersect, weaving patterns across the surface. Without ever seeing the pebbles directly, one could calculate their size, position, and motion purely from the ripples. The hidden becomes visible through interference. So too, he said, with the universe. What we touch and see are not objects, but ripples, the interference of deeper vibrations. Reality is holographic. Every fragment contains the whole. It is why a shard of snowflake reveals the symmetry of the whole crystal. Why each cell in your body reflects the total blueprint of your form. Why a fragment of consciousness, a single thought, can ripple into the fabric of the cosmos. The implications are staggering. If all is vibration, then who you are is determined by what you resonate with. Harmony creates coherence, love, friendship, unity. Dissonance creates chaos, illness, alienation, collapse. The pendulum, the vibration, the resonance. These are not symbols. They are the very mechanics of reality. And Bentov's insight was dangerous not because it was mystical, but because it was scientific. He was not preaching belief. He was sketching physics. And in those sketches, men in hidden offices saw more than curiosity. They saw tools, maps to perception, pathways to altered states, gateways to control. But Bentov never approached it with fear. To him, the pendulum was not a weapon, but a song, a rhythm of births and deaths, presences and absences, the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. And in that rhythm, he found not terror, but wonder. If reality is vibration, then consciousness is its receiver. And like all receivers, it tunes across many frequencies. Some high, some low, some so subtle we mistake them for silence. Bentov drew it simply, levels stacked one atop the other. At the bottom, the physical body. Here, we seem separate. You sit there, I sit here. Skin defines one from another. We believe the distance between us is real. But rise a little higher, to what he called the level of the soul, and the boundaries soften, the edges blur. Like two flames overlapping, your soul extends beyond your skin, touching mine, mingling with all others. What seems divided in matter becomes connected in essence. Go higher still, the level of the higher self, the overseer, the guide of the soul. Here, the overlap grows stronger. Our individuality begins to dissolve into something shared, a unity of purpose beyond personal desire. And at the very highest, the spiritual plane, all separation vanishes. Every soul, every spark, every consciousness merges into one vast field, omnipresent, boundless, a mirror in which everything reflects everything else. This, Bentov said, is not imagination. It is the architecture of reality itself. We live on all of these levels simultaneously, though most of us see only the lowest. The illusion of separateness is not wrong, but it is incomplete. Think of light. Our eyes capture only a narrow band. We see colors, but beneath them lie worlds. Ultraviolet, infrared, invisible yet just as real. So too with consciousness. We experience only a sliver of its full spectrum, yet the higher bands exist, vibrating above us, waiting to be tuned. Bentov believed the brain is not a factory of thoughts, but a receiver, shimmering like a radio antenna, tuning into patterns far beyond the skull. Proof, he argued, lay in paradoxes modern medicine could not explain. Patients living full lives with half their brains removed. Personalities within the same body manifesting different allergies, even different biology. The mind does not end at the brain. It extends into a field, holographic, infinite. And in this holographic field, each fragment contains the whole. A single spark mirrors the entire cosmos. A single self reflects the one. The mystics of every tradition had whispered the same. The Hindu Upanishads declared, "Thou art that." The Buddhist spoke of Indra's net, where every jewel reflects every other jewel in infinite perfection. The Kabbalists spoke of the Aleph, a single point containing all points. To Bentov, these were not metaphors, they were physics. Consciousness, he said, is layered like rungs of a ladder. The astral, where emotions rule. The mental, where thought dominates. The causal, where creation unfolds. And finally, the absolute, the stillness beyond vibration, the source of all oscillations. But beware, he warned. These realms are not playgrounds. The astral glitters with illusions, a halfway house filled with lingering personalities, some radiant, some hostile. Beyond it lies clarity, and beyond even that, union. To climb the ladder is to evolve, not biologically, but vibrationally. Every cell, every psyche, every being spirals upward through these bands, returning again and again, until at last it touches the absolute. And so the question becomes, what do we see when we look at each other? Flesh, personality, or do we glimpse, if only faintly, the vast spectrum of consciousness layered behind the eyes? Bentov believed that to live wisely is to live aware of all levels at once, to honor the body as form, the soul as connection, the higher self as guide, and the spirit as the infinite. For in truth, you are not a fragment at all. You are the whole reflected in a fragment. In May of 1979, Bentov boarded American Airlines Flight 191. He was on his way to Japan to share his discoveries with leading scientists, to reveal at last the code he believed cracked reality itself. But the plane never left the sky. Seconds after takeoff, it disintegrated, scattering fire and steel across the ground. 273 lives ended in an instant, one of the deadliest crashes in American history. Among them, Itzhak Bentov. To the world, it was tragedy. To those who knew him, it was eerie. The man who had charted how consciousness moves beyond the body, beyond time, beyond death, gone in a single blink. Coincidence? Conspiracy? Or simply the pendulum pausing before another swing? What followed was stranger still, for pieces of his work did not vanish with him. They surfaced quietly in the most unlikely of places: the archives of the Central Intelligence Agency. Years later, in a stack of declassified papers, investigators found a report titled Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. 29 pages of dense technical language, yet buried within them, diagrams and ideas that echoed Bentov's own hand. The report described the brain and body not as flesh and bone, but as oscillating systems. It spoke of resonance between heartbeats and brain waves, of consciousness extending beyond space and time, of reality itself as a holographic field. It outlined methods to access non-ordinary states, states where the self could project across vast distances, even into the past and future. It was in essence Bentov's map, only here it was framed not as mysticism, but as intelligence. A tool for remote viewing, for perception without presence, for spying across oceans without ever leaving a room. And this was no fringe experiment. The CIA treated it as a strategic asset. To them, consciousness was not only the frontier of the soul, it was the next battlefield. But the Gateway Project was only one thread. Other files revealed experiments with entrainment, using subtle rhythms, pulses, even colors and sounds to shift brainwaves, to open or close the gates of perception. A child might glimpse a grandmother's spirit in the corner of the room, and a doctor would call it schizophrenia. Bentov would call it an opening of the senses. The agencies saw something else, an opportunity. If perception could be tuned, then perception could be controlled. This was the dangerous edge of Bentov's discovery, for what he offered as liberation, a way to touch the infinite, others saw as leverage. If human reality is only a narrow slit of a much larger spectrum, then whoever controls the slit controls the world. And so his playful diagrams, his bathtub sketches of pendulums and vibrations, found their way into files stamped classified, into programs where mysticism met tradecraft, and the question was no longer, how do we awaken, but how do we weaponize? The irony is sharp. Bentov laughed his way into enlightenment, treating the cosmos as a playground. Yet after his death, his insights were folded into the machinery of secrecy, where play was replaced by power. But perhaps he foresaw this, for he often said, "The universe is holographic. Every fragment reflects the whole, which means no secret can remain hidden forever. What was once locked in vaults has already rippled outward, through whispers, through declassified pages, through the very vibration of thought itself." And so the question returns to us: if the CIA could use consciousness to project across time and space, what could you do with the same map? The gateway's not theirs alone, it is yours. Across continents and centuries, scattered among cultures that never touched hands, one image repeats: the cosmic egg. In the Upanishads of India, it was a golden womb floating in the void, splitting into heaven and earth. In Egypt, Ra, the sun god, was born from its shell at the dawn of time. In China, the egg of chaos cracked open, birthing sky and ground, while the giant Pangu stretched himself between the two. Among the Dogon of Mali, the egg contained Amma, the seed of humanity, and in Slavic myth, Ra, the god of creation, slept within a shining egg, waiting to awaken. Different tongues, different ages, yet the same symbol. All life, all cosmos, all consciousness emerging from an egg. To most, it is myth. To Bentov, it was discovery. He looked into physics and saw the same pattern described by sages. Not a machine winding down, but a universe, pulsing, expanding, collapsing, expanding again. A torus, a breathing, a rhythm without end. The Big Bang was not a single explosion, but the latest swing of the pendulum. The universe, he said, is alive, not mechanical, but organic. Not a prison, but a womb. And if the cosmos is an egg, then so are you. Every cell, every being carries within it the same toroidal field, the same invisible architecture of vibration. Birth and death are not opposites, but shell-making, moments when form cracks and something larger is revealed. Bentov tested even this. He cut open ordinary chicken eggs, placed electrodes across their membranes, and found currents flowing, positive at one end, negative at the other. Before the chick was formed, before life appeared, there was already an electromagnetic field, shaping matter into form. The field came first, the body followed. He called them organizing fields, invisible blueprints woven in energy that guide atoms into life. A tadpole's spine grows along the axis of its egg's field. A seedling sprouts along unseen currents of electromagnetism. Biology, Bentov insisted, is physics in disguise. And if this is true for eggs, why not for planets? Why not for stars? Why not for the universe itself? The ancients who spoke of Mother Earth and Father Sky may not have been speaking in metaphor. They may have been describing what Bentov measured: worlds alive with fields, consciousness woven into matter at every scale. Here, myth meets science. The egg of creation is not only story, it is structure. The same cross shape, the same vertical axis and horizontal span appears again and again in sacred tradition. The ancients carved it in stone as the symbol of life. Bentov found it pulsing in the embryo with electrodes. The lesson is staggering. Life is not an accident. It is geometry unfolding. Form is not random. It is resonance crystallized. You are not a pile of atoms stumbling by chance into awareness. You are the flowering of an ancient blueprint, an echo of the universe itself. And when the shell breaks, whether in the collapse of a star or in the death of a body, it is not destruction, but revelation. The egg does not shatter into nothing, it hatches. And so the cosmos too is hatching. With every breath of expansion and contraction, with every swing of the pendulum, something greater is emerging from within. Bentov saw it not as the end of science, but as the return of wonder. The myths were not primitive stories. They were early diagrams of the same truth modern instruments now confirm. The universe is alive. It breathes, it grows, and we are the embryos within it, waiting for the shell to crack. If the universe is vibration, then every thought, every act, every breath is part of its music. Question is not whether you resonate, but with what? Bentov taught that systems of oscillation seek harmony. Place a row of grandfather clocks in a room. At first their pendulums swing out of sync. Wait long enough and they fall into rhythm. Women who live together find their cycles aligning. Soldiers marching in step feel their hearts beating as one. The principle is the same: coherence. When we resonate, we heal, we connect, we create community. When we clash, we fragment, we collapse. To dwell in anger, fear, dissonance is to amplify chaos. To dwell in stillness, love, and clarity is to align with the deeper order. Love, Bentov suggested, is not mere sentiment. It is physics. The same mysterious attraction that pulls planets into orbit, that binds galaxies into clusters, is the force that draws hearts together. Gravity and love may be two faces of the same phenomenon, the universe's tendency to unite with itself. And so when mystics say, God is love, or when Rumi whispers, love is the bridge between you and everything, they are not speaking only in metaphor. They are describing the very mechanics of reality. To feel love is to fall into step with the rhythm that spins stars. To resist love is to resist the current that carries all beings toward the absolute. But here lies the danger, for if reality is vibration, then whoever controls resonance controls perception. And in the modern world, this knowledge is no longer hidden in monasteries or sealed in CIA vaults. It is woven into the very platforms we use every day. The Gateway Files spoke of controlled perception, reshaping reality by tuning awareness. Today, that principle hums quietly in algorithms. Each search result, each notification, each flicker of light on a screen nudges the pendulum of your mind. Not with force, but with rhythm. Predictive models learn what moves you, then adjust the tempo, guiding your thoughts before you know you've chosen. What once required laboratories and classified projects now runs invisibly through your phone, your feed, your very sense of time. Attention is the pendulum, and billions swing in unison, entrained not by heartbeats, but by code. This is the shadow of Bentov's legacy. The same mechanics that could liberate the soul can also enslave the mind. The question, as always, is resonance. Will you allow your rhythm to be dictated by fear, by distraction, by manipulation, or will you tune it yourself, aligning with coherence, with stillness, with love? Bentov believed the universe is a teaching machine. It reflects what you carry within. Dissonance echoes as suffering. Harmony echoes as clarity. The choice of what to resonate with is never small, for your frequency ripples outward, amplifying into the whole. If matter is illusion, if time is elastic, if consciousness is holographic, then nothing you are is insignificant. Every thought is a vibration in Indra's net. Every act is a note in the cosmic symphony. You are not separate from the universe. You are the pendulum. You are the egg. You are the song. And the music you play, in this moment, in this lifetime, resounds far beyond what you can hear. Itzhak Bentov began as an engineer of machines, but ended as an engineer of mysteries. He showed us that matter is not solid, but sound slowed into form. That time is not a straight line, but a rhythm, blinking in and out of existence. That consciousness is not confined to the brain, but woven through a universal field. He revealed that the universe is not cold and mechanical, but alive, breathing, oscillating, hatching like a cosmic egg. And at the center of it all, he whispered, lies love. Not as sentiment, but as gravity itself. The pull that draws all fragments back into unity. His plane fell, but his rhythm remains. The pendulum still swings. And now the question is yours. Will you live as if you are separate, bound by matter, chained to time? Or will you stretch the pause, listen to the silence, and discover the infinite waiting within you? The universe reflects what you carry. Every thought ripples into Indra's net. Every act vibrates across eternity. You are not small. You are not powerless. You are the pendulum, the egg, the song. If Bentov left us one gift, it is this. Reality is not fixed. It is music. And you are the musician. So I leave you with a challenge. Play your note well. Play it with coherence. Play it with love. And if this journey moved you, share it. Let its resonance reach further. Like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and help others tune to the same vibration by sharing it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Echo Veil, where we uncover the hidden rhythms of existence, together. Because the pendulum is still swinging, and the next pause is already waiting.